Welcome to the Q3 Week 2 weekly practice. This is Miss Gillum, and we are going to go through the first 4 problems to hopefully help you for the rest of the week with the rest of the problems. So let's get started. So on question 1, you had to find the quotient of 42 and 8/10 and 4. So the first thing we need to do is set up our division. So we would have 42 and 8/10. And we are dividing that by 4. So the first thing we will do is figure out how many times will 4 go into the 4, which is 1. And 1 times 4 is 4, so we have nothing left. And we bring down the 2. And here's where I saw some people when I was walking around make some mistakes, is you just skip. You're like, well, 4 can't go into 2, so you just drop down the 8. Well, you need to say that 4 cannot go into 2. 4 can only go into 2 0 times. So the 0 needs to be up there. And then you can drop down your 8. And then say 4 goes into 28 7 times. And you will have that. But you are not done. Because if you think of this, you should be able to estimate 4 going into 42 and 8/10 should be around 10. Because 4 times 10 is 40. So we need to remember to bring our decimal to the top. So our final answer is 10 and 7/10. Okay, question 2 is introing to our equations that we have been working on. You could have done this one 2 ways. You could have thought, well, 6 times what number would give me 42 to make x true. Or you could have worked it out mathematically like we've been talking about in class. So you could have said 6x is equal to 42. And since we know that this 6 and x together means multiplication, to undo multiplication, we need to divide. And what we do to one side, we need to do to the other. So 6 divided by 6 makes 1. So we have 1x. Which equals, and we know 42 divided by 6 is 7. And we can check our work by plugging that back in. So 6 times 7 equal to 42. Yes, we know that 6 times 7 does equal 42. Okay, on to question 3. So we need to remember when we are adding and subtracting fractions, we must have common denominators. So you can see in both of these problems, we do not have common denominators. So in the first one, we are looking at 35 and 7. Well, I know that I can make 7 into 35, an equivalent fraction out of 35. So I think 7 times 5 is 35. And so the golden rule of math applies for fractions as well. What I do to the denominator, I must do to the numerator. So then I get 20 35ths. So my new number is 1 and 20 35ths. Well, if I add that, I have 3 wholes and 36 35ths. But this is an improper fraction, and we cannot leave it that way. So we need to simplify 36 35ths, which we know 35 can go into 36 one time with 1 35th left over. So I'm going to add that to the 3 that we already have. So our final answer is actually 4 and 1 35th would be the final answer to that problem. Okay, next we have a subtraction problem. We have 4 and 3/5 minus 2 and 7/30. So I know that I can change the 5 into a 30. So underneath, I'm going to rewrite my fraction so it's 30ths, just like the second one. And we follow the same rule that what I do to the bottom, I must do to the top. So 5 times 6 is 30. So 3 times 6 is 18. Minus the 2 and 7/30. 4 minus 2 is 2. 18/30 minus 7/30 is 11/30. And that would be your final answer. Okay, and question 4 is a little bit of review, but also with the new percent. So today in class, we talked about what the word percent means. We broke this down, and we said cent is 100. Per means for each. So for each 100. So if you're looking at 8/10, the way you read it to make it a decimal tells you what your decimal should be, 8/10. But if you don't remember your decimal place values, you might write this on your paper that The number right after the decimal is your tens place. So your ones are here, and then you have your tenths, then you have hundredths, and etc. to thousands. And if you notice, we've talked about this in class, but it's a reflection of the other side of the decimal. So after ones is tens, after ones is tenths, after tens is hundreds, after tenths is hundredths. So 8/10 would be 1 decimal place after thing. And so 8/10 though is out of 10, but we know a percent must be out of 100. So 10 times 10 is 100, so we need to do 8 times 10, which is 80. So the answer would be 80%. Okay, so 4,500, same thing, it's gonna be 45, and the 5 is in the hundredths place, and that's why it's called 45 hundredths. And since it's out of 100, you can just change it to a percent, so that makes it 45%. 12 out of 100, or 12 hundredths, you would write as 12 hundredths. Once again, the 2 is in the hundredths place. And then as a percent, that would be 12%. Great job. You finished your weekly practice for tonight. If you have any questions, feel free to email or wait till class tomorrow.